Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, The Israeli. In the last video we talked about China and how China is becoming a very vocal critic of Israel, which started especially in the last cycle of violence with Gaza, and the reasons why that is happening, especially because of China's Belt and Road Initiative, which they're trying to expand, and they're trying to get the Arabs on their side, while at the same time also having deals and partnerships with Israel. And actually next year, Israel is going to celebrate 30 years of diplomatic relationships with China. But today we're going to talk about Turkey and how the Turkish television is supporting Hamas and how they're doing it for quite a while now under Arduan's leadership. And we're going to talk about why that is happening. And so we're going to watch the video. There's a lot to talk about the video, and there's also a lot to talk about why they're supporting Hamas in such a way. Okay, so let's go over the video and see what is happening.
طبعا احنا لسه ملناش 10 ايام فاتحين مشروعنا، بدنا نحقق يعني شيء انه انجزنا بحاجه احنا بحياتنا.
كنا محضرين نفسنا لموسم العيد اللي هو.
So watch the music, of course, and the people that they're showing, they're not militants. All the people that they're going to show are civilians that have a very sad story. And by the way, when I see these pictures, my heart also goes out to the Gazan people, and I feel for them, and I hope they have a better future. I really, really do.
هو أهم عيد في السنة لتجار الملابس.
السنتر عبارة عن مجمع تجاري كبير، كان السنتر هذا بيرسم الفرحة على وجوه الأطفال. السنتر في أكمله تدمر دمار شامل.
So of course here they're trying to touch your heart, to reach out to your emotions by showing you a mall where everybody has a mall and everybody goes to a mall, so you can relate, and of course talking about children and showing you children.
فلما صارت التهدئة اجينا اطلعنا لقينا الابواب ممزعة والمحل رايح وحالة ما إلها إلا الله.
Okay, so we're going to jump a little bit because they're showing the buildings and how sad it is because people lost their livelihoods, their salaries, and their future. And here using children again. Now this is true because this is something that people don't know, but actually before the last cycle of violence, Gaza had its best economic state that it was in the last 15 years. It was actually starting to do really well, and then this cycle started. So for this girl that in 2014, when the last cycle happened, she was probably a very small baby, or maybe she wasn't even born. So for her, this is something new that she hasn't really experienced before. So for her, Gaza did change because Gaza was in its best economic condition before this last cycle of violence. Okay, let's jump a little bit.
العدوان الإسرائيلي وبإذن الله راح نبنيها من جديد.
So again, I want you to see what he's saying.
هذا كله بسبب العدوان الإسرائيلي.
All of this happened because of Israeli aggression. So up until now, I want you to notice you haven't seen any militants, you haven't seen any Hamas members, like they don't exist, and nobody mentioned even one word about Hamas missiles. Now, I'm not saying you can criticize Israel for the damage, for the destruction, for being overly heavy-handed in the attacks, but this is one-sided. Like anybody who sees this, unless they're already convinced to be against Israel 100%, this is a bit lazy. Like I'll say something for a second to the people who made this video. This is a bit lazy. I mean, I understand that Arduan asks you to make these videos on a daily basis, but you know, now after a Gaza conflict, you should have put a little bit of more effort into it. This is becoming very generic and quite boring that you show only one side and you forget to mention these huge things like 4,000 rockets shot by Hamas. You can frame the rockets any way you want, you know, but not to mention it, that's quite lazy. Let's continue.
وباذن الله راح نبنيها من جديد وراح نعمرها من جديد وراح ترجع افضل من جديد.
وحنستمر ونصلح وحنضل نصلح الى ان ربنا يتولانا. لا يمكن نقبل انه احنا نقعد في بيوتنا والحياه متطلبه عمل، ولا يمكن.
Excellent. Good. This is the kind of people that I want. People who want to work hard, people who want to build themselves a future. And I believe that this guy, I don't know who he is. Maybe he's a Hamas supporter, maybe he's not, but he wants a future. I can see in his eyes that he wants to live. Also, the guy before that they talked, the young man, he wants a future. He wants to study, he wants to learn, he wants to build something of himself. Those are the people that I want to reach out to, not Hamas. Unfortunately, these people are living under Hamas, and they will never say anything against Hamas, especially not to Turkish television, because the consequences are quite dire. Let's continue.
بإذن الله ربنا هيك يعطينا القوة والصبر نرجع.
Here, this guy, I can see hope in his eyes. I can see despair in his eyes. I can see fear and sadness in his eyes, but I can see him wanting a future. And I reach out to you, my brother. If you hear this, contact me on my email and we can have a conversation, an honest conversation, because you look to me, I don't know who you are, just from what I see, like a guy that wants a future and we can have a conversation with, not the Turkish television who's interviewing you.
أحسن من الأول وبزيادة نرجع نعمر يا رب.
Okay, now I want you to look at this picture. This picture is very important and very representative of the whole framing and propaganda and narratives around the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So you see a little girl here, a nice little girl. She's holding the Palestinian flag, and she has the flag of Israel on her face, painted on her face. Now, if you look at it, you'll see that this is the whole of Israel. We're not talking here about the Palestinian Authority and Gaza and some kind of thing, Israel in the middle, that they shows that they want peace. No, they want one country, and like many of you write in my comments and chanting on the protests, from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. So that is a great little rhyme, but that means that you want to erase Israel. And if you want to erase Israel, you are allowed to have your own opinion. I'm not going to tell you what to think. You're allowed to say whatever you want to say. I'm for free speech and free thinking, even if I don't agree with it completely. But if you chant from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, and if you paint flags that of Israel, which the whole country is the Palestinian flag, then you have no right to talk about peace. You have no right to criticize Israel, because if you say that you want to erase the state of Israel, which you don't say about any other country in the world, only about Israel, then you are not for peace. You are for war, you are for continuing bloodshed, and you have no right to criticize Israel. It's that simple. If you're for a two-state resolution, or if you're for a one-state resolution that takes both people into account, then your criticism is totally legitimate, 100% legitimate, and I will listen to it, and I will try to debate it if I can. But once you take the side that Israel needs to be erased off the map, then you are not for peace, and you have no right to criticize Israel. Period. Okay, let's see how this ends. Okay. So this is the Turkish television support of Hamas, and they didn't mention Hamas here, and this is how they support them actually, by not mentioning them. Yeah, because if they mention them, then the context becomes more complex, and they can't do it in a nice 2-minute video that reaches out to your emotions. Yes, they cannot do that. Now, why do they do that? You know, it's strange, because yesterday we talked about China and Russia, and both China and Russia are not known for their human rights. Yeah? Russia annexed Crimea a while ago. Nobody's talking about it. Everybody's talking about Israel's will to annex the West Bank, even though they're not going to do that because they have no local support or American support to do that. But Russia annexed Crimea, and nobody's really talking about that, but Russia feels like it has the right to criticize Israel. China, what it's doing with Uyghur Muslims, what it's doing with Hong Kong, what it's doing, the way it wants to conquer Taiwan, the China Sea, all that mess, they have a right to critique criticize Israel. Strange. And now Turkey. Turkey, which is known for having extremely bad human rights records, I think they hold the record for arresting journalists, are now having a military operation against the Kurds in northern Iraq, which is a Kurdish autonomy. Yeah, nobody talks about it. Yeah, and when Turkey attacks Israel, they put the light on Israel so nobody looks what they're doing in their backyard. And they're right now in a war with the Kurds. And I'll make a video about the Kurds because the Kurds are amazing people. And to any Kurdish people who are listening to this, we're for you. Yeah, we support you. So, you know, Arduan has an interest to criticize Israel and to make the light shine on Israel and not in his backyard. And this is one of the reasons, not the main reason, one of the reasons, of course, one of the main reasons is that Arduan is a big anti-Semite, and he's not really hiding it, but he's trying to juggle it between diplomacy and anti-Semitism like many do. And we'll talk about that as well in future videos. And that's why they're doing it, because these countries have very bad human rights records, and by criticizing Israel, they take the pressure off themselves, especially in the local sense when it comes to Turkey. It takes the pressure off themselves. Okay, so if you guys have anything to comment about what I said in this video, if it makes you angry that I criticized this video, which is done quite well, I think lazy, but done quite well, then comment below. It's okay. I answer the comments as long as they're respectful. If they're not respectful, I don't answer them, but I don't erase them either, so that anybody that comes in can see what you wrote. And if you're proud of it, great. If you're not proud of it, you can erase it. But I don't erase anything, and I answer every comment that I deem respectful. So feel free to write your comments below. And if you like this content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. And I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.